what do you want to share with us?
Well, I can't go beyond the 10 or 15 minutes that I spent in the Suns rooms immediately after that result. And it wasn't before the players even came in. The family and partners were milling around, the support staff and the players that didn't play with some of the coaches that were there on the other side. There were celebrations all round for this journey that they've been on, and then to be obviously the elation of being able to win this game and what it meant. But the connections, the connections of the winners were the interesting thing. And then the players came in, and it was through the roof. It was that was huge. It was. I made the comment at the time that this is history, isn't it? Yeah. It is history. So 2009 you founded, 2011 you come in, and you're in your 16th season, and you go and do this. It's all the blood, sweat, and tears in between. Amazing.
There was something wide-eyed and innocent about it, which they've never experienced it before. And then to go into enemy territory and win their first final like that. So when they fell behind, when Luke Jackson took that mark, it was sort of a pat on the head. Great job. First finals experience. We'll see you next year, and you'll graduate from there. No. We're going to win this right back.
Yeah, so with 4 minutes to go, the Dockers had the lead and they went into survival mode. They went into, let's close this game down and win it. And the Suns were able to open it up despite a great tackle by Shea Bolton, despite an intercept mark by Brennan Cox. So there was, there was a lot still to be done, and they went and got it done. So, to be able to make the calls, to be planned and structured enough to be able to do it, but then to execute was first class.
There's a couple of snap judgments which I think fit nicely with your buck stops. More of Matty Rowe's mum, and hopefully the Suns get to play the Pies and she can go head-to-head with Bo McCreary's mum, Les from Mooney Ponds, which was then followed by, if the Suns play the Pies in a prelim, can you organise Mrs. McCreary and Mrs. Rowe to do a pre-match interview? Mike, go Pies.
The one I liked was, next week the Q Clash. Woof!
I know.
It was like, let's go. And then she's tapping her son on the chest. Anyone else would have been slapped back 5 metres, but it was rolled gold. She was a beauty.
Yep, those are the moments. It did actually. I know we'd corresponded, but Collingwood's win at Adelaide Oval just had such markers of 2002, didn't it?
Yeah, and that could have easily been a buck stop, but it's and the fact that the whole playing, coaching, administration, support staff got into the circle, that was exactly what had happened 23 years earlier. In fact, I was sitting across from, I might have mentioned this last week, but I was sitting across the table from James Podsy Adley, who obviously made his fame at Geelong, but he was with us as a supplementary list player for a while before, and elsewhere, before he matured and got his opportunities at Geelong. But he and Richie Cole at the time weren't playing in that game and drove across to be a part of that environment and to come and support the team. And I vividly remember still looking across because I was injured with a hammy. I got in the circle, I look across, and there's Richie and James Podsy Adley. So we were talking about it last week. So it definitely had shades of that. You get into a hostile territory, take your double chance and get straight to a prelim. They've done very well.
The scenes in the rooms, the buck stops, looking for a career that gives you more. Search Police Careers, Victoria Police, made for more, which spins into the big issue for Oldham construction lawyers, your experts in construction law. The historic win for Gold Coast in their first final. How impressed were you?
Very. And from the get-go, they were top of the ground, sharp, clean. It's hard to differentiate, like in a 1-point win, to be that much cleaner than the opposition. And that's exactly what they were. Now, Freo had their moments, Young, Reid at times, who was excellent. But across the board, the ground level, because it was slippery conditions. The rain had come in most of the day, went away for a little while, come back. But the Suns were just so clean. There were a dozen ground balls that they were under fierce pressure, and they did not miss a beat. And it stood out in game time. And to be able to get to that, okay, you've done the work on the basics. You've executed it under pressure in training. You've practiced it and moulded yourself into it under pressure in games. But then you have to get yourself in a mental and emotional state to know and trust that when the moment comes that you are not even thinking about it, you just go do it. So that's an element of coaching. It's an element of leadership and belief. And that was clearly all there. So they went out and executed. You miss one of those ground balls. I mean, this is as marginal as it is, but they were layers above Fremantle in terms of their cleanliness, in terms of the way that they went about their ground ball. And yet they only win by a point. So that asks a question a little bit about what does winning look like? Because the Suns look like they played a winning brand of football for far longer than the Dockers, even though the Dockers had that run to get back. So I thought they were first class, and it started from the inside with their leaders. Their backs were brilliant, even early. Hewland and Collins, Andrews stood up. They all stood up. And then their forwards got to work eventually, but it was a really consolidated, strong team performance.
Who were the players who you looked at and went, yep, made for finals?
Well, Bailey Humphrey, we just obviously spoke about him then, and he was awesome. There's even the first goal he kicked. So Matty Rowell, who's the other guy that I would speak to first about made for finals, his bullocking work was excellent. There's no doubt that he was able to get out of inside contests and get field position for his team, but he's also breaking the lines. He got that last clearance that led to the Swallow free kick. But Humphrey stood out in the second quarter. Probably should have fed that first one back, but just said, "Nah, I'm going to make it happen on my left. Zig when they think I'm going to zag." And then he finished with another couple by the end of the second quarter. So those two boys in particular, I thought some of Powell's efforts on Shea Bolton, especially in the second half. He's not a small boy. He's probably 6'2", 6'3", 6'2" he'd be. But he kept up with pretty much the slipperiest player in the AFL. If he's a seagull on a chip, if there's an opportunity there to go and get a loose ball in forward 50, but Power was able to be on him, and a couple of times on the lead where it looks like he is done here. There's no way he'd be able to get it, and he was just right on him. So I thought that was amazing as well. Davies was really strong through the middle of the field, continued his form late in the season. So the Suns have found a few, and they've just been able to mould and put them in important roles, and all credit to them.
And then the two moments. So the Mac Andrew moment,
yeah,
it's pretty great.
Well, so 4 minutes to play, then they go to that centre bounce, and Dockers have just gone 6 points up. Josh Tracy in the next bit, then there's a secondary stoppage in the middle, and before you know it, Josh Tracy's back 70 metres from the stoppage in the aerial contest, and Michael Frederick's 20 metres off a stoppage on his own for run and carry or ground ball, and to get back and be an extra at the ground. So they went into 8 defenders, 4 forwards. Shea Bolton sticks that tackle that comes out that went lateral, which is right. You want to go lateral, but there's still 4 minutes to play. We had conversations with match committee quite often. If you get behind the ball, you're actually giving the opposition an extra couple to start their run, and you're pretty much saying we're going to play on our heels for the last little bit of time. So how much time is the right amount of time to do that? Some teams will go into a seventh with 8 minutes to go. Freo went into shutdown with 4 minutes to go. 4 minutes is a lot of footy, as we were soon to find out. And the Suns continued to attack. The Dockers went into control mode, and how often are we seeing it in modern football now? The team that's in attack mode is the team that ultimately holds sway. So the Suns did it brilliantly. Mac Andrew went forward and equalised Tracy. And I think they were happy to leave Frederick there, take the +1 off Rioli, and then just try and get a little bit of run off the back, which is exactly what they were able to do.
It's a good quality to have for Mac Andrew, because we have seen it before, haven't we? He's won a game after the siren against Essendon. Now he's played a pivotal role in an elimination final.
Yeah, he's kicked 2 goals. Before that, he'd kicked 2 goals for this year. So he'd kicked 2 goals in the entire season, and there he is. He couldn't have met that ball any cleaner or any more confident. And what about his utterings after saying, yeah, what were you thinking at the top? He goes, I just really want to play next week. How good's that? So he just got the job done. often if you're thinking about outcome, you sort of the process might be lost. But he kept that straight, and that was as straight as a die. So, yeah, fair effort. But even in and around that, there was 3 or 4 Suns. Like Long was keeping Pearce busy. They were sort of the ones that were out of the contest were keeping the intercept markers out, and that was because they were even numbered. If you're not even numbered, then you've got someone who's a loose player who can actually take a fly at that, whether to mark it or to spoil it, without a contest. So there's coaching and there's planning in that as well.
And then footy loves a fairy tale. There haven't been many better than David Swallow there.
I mean, even his aggression to lead, like very rarely is a defender going to lead his forward to the ball in that circumstance. But Luke Ryan was defending out the back, and Swallow gets in, and Cox makes a lunging tackle attempt, and he's got his head behind Swallow. So I've been in that position. It can be a little bit frustrating because what do you expect him to do? He's just sticking the tackle. The ball's come out, and then that free kick was there. And then, to be able to carry the line, we thought it was all a goal, but Erasmus was jumping up and down straight away. Yep. Look, it is fairy tales. I mean, you had the antithesis of a fairy tale on the other side with Nat Fyfe, and the juxtaposition of those two and the highs and lows of the game were never laid barer than in the last 45 seconds of that match.
So we spoke on Wednesday about fabric and picking David Swallow for that. And there was a moment, and Swallow himself referred to it, he thought he had cost them the game.
I think we all saw that, didn't we?
He got the ball in open space, and he just doesn't have the legs anymore, and he took a bounce, and he couldn't get the kick, and it turns over. And I was watching it thinking, so that's the push and pull of do you play the old guy or not, because this moment presents. And then he not only redeems, but he wins the game for them. It was what a sequence.
And do we think that if that last moment didn't happen, that we would have definitely gone back to that David Swallow moment, wouldn't we?
And we would have all been forgiving of it, and this was the right thing to do for a footy club. But that's the downside.
But it's just one. It's one. That's not the only mistake the Suns made through the game.
No.
It's not the one thing that didn't go right for them that may have cost them. On the flip side, Andrew Brayshaw was coming through the middle of the field, and had Luke. I think he had Luke Jackson. 10 metres clear, and was going to struggle. If he kicked that ball 100 times, he's not going to miss him, and that's how straightforward that hit up was. He'll be kicking himself, and he had a huge game. I thought his third quarter in particular was massive, Brayshaw. So there's those sliding doors moments, and that's what happens when you're in a cutthroat final. And as Damien Hardwick said, that he'd lost 3 in a row as the Richmond coach in his early in his tenure. And that was the first elimination final that he's been on the right side on as a senior coach. So ticking boxes everywhere, the Suns.
From the text, if anyone needs a second team to follow during finals, you should be jumping on the Suns bandwagon, as they have superstars and gutsy tries all over the field. Josh from Bundoora. I believe it was Dimmer's first elimination final win as either a coach or player. Unbelievable. And he's a forward, Mac Andrew. That's it. That's a good snap judgment.
That smacks of someone who's had a long-held belief that's just had a little slither to back up that their opinion.
Yes.
Could be my old man.
So Hardwick's task now, get the maximum momentum out of it and then reset.
Well, yeah, you've got to ride the wave without getting out too far in front of it, I suppose. If he's obviously well placed to do it. He's been there before. He understands, the ebbs and flows of the emotional challenge of a player, of a group. There's enjoying it, but they're not going over the top, because if you don't enjoy it, well, then you grind yourself down, and that laughter and that connection and those moments is what fuels the next one. So he'll find a way. I
feel like we should do Buckley's chance now, and that was Collingwood on the road. You had to have faith. There was all sorts of reasons to have faith, and then they rewarded it so well.
Yeah, I suppose the inside 50 count last time they played, sort of 3 weeks ago, was indication enough. Okay, if you can get it forward 71 times, and you only lost in a narrow loss, a narrow margin, well then surely you've got chances, don't you? You've got some opportunity. But it was the Collingwood pressure that was able to get it done. They're at 194, across the game, and Adelaide were lower. Adelaide were 180. They're normally rolled gold 185 and then go more, but they weren't able to bring that heat or pressure. So Collingwood were cleaner from getting from the inside to the outside. They won more contests and they were able to put fierce pressure on and created opportunities from that. Took the crowd out pretty early. And their backs just held, despite those couple of moments from Darcy Moore, the first mark to Walker and then the error that resulted in the Dawson goal. That's strength of character to be able to stand up. That's their goldfish mentality. Let your mistakes go and then keep going. And Darcy has always had that. So to come back and to keep playing aggressive intercept footy the way he was it showed. Really strong resilience. And he played, out of his skin compared to what we've seen the last couple of months as well.
So what is it in the DNA? So I was looking back over, that was their 5th away finals win. So 2002 Football Park qualifying final versus Port Adelaide, which was just utterly heroic. 2007 semi-final in extra time at Subiaco against West Coast.
Yep.
2008 Football Park elimination final, standard win against Adelaide, but in that environment. And heroic 1-point win in an elimination final at Optus against West Coast. And now you can add this in. Is not there were some who had the imagination for it, but a lot who'd shut the gate on them after the 5-5 run from the bye.
Well, you need a little bit of help too. And Adelaide weren't quite as sharp as they normally are. They but pressure can break down. And these are when the bond, the individuals, no doubt that Collingwood have talent. We see that, and Adelaide have talent. But as a team, Adelaide had performed better in the back half of the season. And even when they hadn't played at their best, the bonds between them were still really strong. Their lower level was still like a 6 or a 7. You weren't getting them to drop under that. But pressure tests those bonds, and it tests that connection in finals, and that's really what you uncover, I suppose, when you reach those levels of intensity that you don't get through a home and away, or very rarely get through a home and away. So Collingwood were able to turn that heat up, and Adelaide who have been coming along when that heat's been turned up by the opposition, and then they turn up even further and then run away. They weren't quite able to go. And it planted a seed of doubt. And then Collingwood, late in the second, early in the third, they were just able to go bang and put a score on the board. They're class players in Dacos, DeGoey and Sidebottom. And there's more class than that, but they're the three that were able to stand up and finish or create opportunities off a half a step of space, which is exactly what finals is asking for.
DeGoey, so they've played the long game with him to have him physically primed for the end, which there's both discipline and necessity in doing that and trying to come up with a plan which gives him his best chance. And his 2 best games have been the final round of the home and away season when they really did need him and a qualifying final.
Yeah, I think the point here is if Geordie is up and going, he just handles the moments. He handles the pressure. And there are some characters that you might call it you can say it's carelessness, but it's not. They just care less. So they're able to be more risk takers, and they're able to stand up in pressures that in situations where others would be affected by mentally and emotionally. It's like meh, and I'll just go and do this because this is what needs to be done. And Geordie's one of those guys. He just takes a straight line to wherever he needs to be, makes the difficult look simple. When everyone else is losing their heads, he keeps his. So that is, for all the attributes he has as a footballer, for all the talent that he displays, he trains at absolute intensity when he's up and about. So the physical challenge of getting him ready was the back end of it, and the club needs credit for that. The medical staff, the conditioning staff, to be able to, and him for being able to buy into it, to get him take those gradual steps. As Craig McRae said soon after, like 8 weeks ago, I didn't think that we might even be trying to get him up to be a sub. But now he's playing a pivotal role across 4 quarters in a finals win away to put them in the prelim. And that's largely what Jordan De Goey has done throughout his career in finals. So we should expect that he's going to be thereabouts in 2 weeks' time.
Mason Cox was the right rein to pull.
It was, and he doesn't. It's not about touches. It's not about how many disposals you get. It's probably not even about how many marks you get in that early third quarter when they the crumb goals were kicked, that was largely off the back of some of his. He was the target, and it was central, and it was 25 metres out, and it was Mason Cox. So my check was keeping Keane busy from an intercept perspective, and kicked 5 points. Could have filled his boots a little bit more, but Cox's position, not just in the ruck against Thilthorpe as a second ruck, or even against O'Brien at times, but as that beacon up forward on any movement, fast or slow, to go to the top of the square and bring that ball to ground. And it looked like the Collingwood players knew exactly what was happening there, and they were able to hit the scoreboard as a result. So they'll have a match play against either Brisbane or the Gold Coast, and that's the advantage of winning the qualifying final. It is a supreme position to be in, to be able to sit back, lick your wounds, get that right. Your feet barely touch the ground, in these couple of weeks as a person involved in a club or a player in qualifying finals. This qualifying final wins. This is everything you hope for. So they've been able to go and win. Adelaide was probably perceived as tough a win to go and get, and it's been got. But it does ramp up. So the match play continues, and the preliminary final awaits.
Justin has texted through, all-time Pies night. I said we would gather en masse. Only had a couple of soldiers on the hill, but owned the East Stand, singing all the way through the city. Just incredible. And Pendles had 23 touches and went at 87% disposal efficiency. 8 of those were in the last quarter at 100%. In a pressure final like that, it is just simply elite. Good observation.
Can't argue with that. I mean, the experience in that Collingwood side is established. We've all spoken about it. The question was about the physical element. Could they withstand that? And there were questions about that in the last sort of 5 or 6 weeks of the year. With a 2-week lead-in, the bye definitely helps, old bodies. And then you get another 2-week lead-in into your next one. So, yeah, it's all there for the taking.
The curiosity is Hawthorn. How far can the team in 8th go? Hawthorn were 42 points up, and then the Giants just unleashed in that third term. It was a goal to difference at three-quarter time. The Giants hit the front early in the final term, and the Hawks steady up and kicked the last 3 goals to win.
Well, very rarely, Giants had 72 inside 50s and lost the game. So that's nearly the antithesis of what they've been. They've been holding up, rope-a-dope with their backs against the wall or against the rope, sort of withstanding, taking punishment, and then being able to go and score enough, just get enough entries to score. Well, 72, they haven't played like that. So the ground was flipped to what they've been used to. And whilst they scored heavily, they went on a run of 7 goals in a row through that third quarter, and only Collingwood had as equal a good a run in terms of goals consecutively. 7 goals was as much as anyone did over the weekend, and the Giants were up and going. You look at their momentum and you think, geez, this is going to be hard to turn around. That's interesting insight for the coach to say, I don't reckon they would have heard anything. And that would be accurate too. But that's not what they hear, it's what they feel. So if the coach is if he presents upbeat, if he presents bullish, if he goes, look, hey, it's on now, isn't it? 30 minutes ago we thought we were home. It's on now, and we still got a game to win, so let's go and win it. Let's be aggressive. Let's be aggressive in our defence, and let's be aggressive in our offence. And they were able to do that as the last quarter wore on. Just a matchup that stood out for me was, Toby Green was my guy for, this is the bloke that'll be the difference maker, the separator for the Giants. Blake Hardwick's role on him was exceptional. And he is the back half stopper. So whoever is going to be the biggest thorn in Hawthorn's side in regards to being able to finish on the scoreboard, creating scoring opportunities for his team, winning contests, Hardwick's going to be the man. So, who does he go to? When they take on Adelaide, he's got multiple options. But if Rankin was there, it would have been Rankin. But Hardwick just goes and gets the job done. Their defence was supreme for the most part. Barras, Battle, Impey off the back in their early stages. His run was huge. So yeah, they stood up when they needed to and broke the Giants down enough to put them in that winning position.
Hardwick was the one. So I haven't gone back and watched the last quarter yet, but when the Giants had momentum, he won 3 contests. I think they were in a row. I reckon it was 3 in 3 minutes. And that it changed the game. And then Sicily wins 2 or 3 in a row. And then Scrimshaw chimes in and he wins the 2 right on the last line. And all the way through, you've got Impey and Amon who are doing their thing coming out. So all the analysis around Hawthorn's defence is spot on.
Yeah.
Is when it was so they couldn't get a stop in the third quarter when the wave was coming at them over and over again. But once they'd had the breath and resettled, they were immense in the last quarter. And each of them had individual moments. It's not hard to when they clip up that video and go, your trademarks, this is what it looks like. It won't be hard to guess what moments they put up.
And they're not hard to find in winning finals. You've realised how crucial every little contest is, how the bounce of the ball that you can't control, but your effort. And that's why, like, Blake Hardwick strikes me as a player who is not going to be easily beaten, but when he is, he's not going to beat himself either. He's just going to present to the next contest with everything that he's got in him, like really controlled mental and emotional state, but ready to do what needs to be done physically. And he's smart. His positioning is first class. He's good in the air. He's great on the ground. He just makes smart decisions. And that speaks to experience in the caper on both ends of the ball. It speaks to a wherewithal about knowing what your limitations are and what your job is in the game, and then trusting the people around you to get that done. Mitchell has employed him as a forward at times. He actually said, I think halfway through last year, he's our best forward at times, but he's played him largely in the back half, and you can see why.
He made good decisions, Sam, too, is dropping Mitch Lewis. And they get their rewards quickly. Like Connor McDonald separates the game early. Jack Ginnivan is the pivotal figure when they make their move in the third term. Mabior Chol does his thing. They sub Kel Shadir out. It's the right call at the right time. Is that what they play about 4 weeks with a structure, and then whether it was because of their head-to-head matchup with the way the Giants moved the ball off half-back or just a realisation that they were too big, it was absolutely the right decision.
Well, there could also be a simpler explanation for this. Mitch Lewis could be banged up and not physically able to do what needed to be done in a home and away final, and they had 3 pretty solid games leading up, let alone being able to step up for a final. So it may just simply be availability as much as anything. Now, they'll try and keep him going because in the end you need to keep all your troops going, and you want everyone to feel like the light's at the end of the tunnel for them to be able to get back in the team. And that friction point and the gratitude for the teammates that are in there, looking at the teammates that aren't, that plays a part in the gratitude of actually being there as well, because you're doing it for more than yourself. But you're right, the decisions were made in selection. They stood out and they played really well. The other thing about these high inside 50, so 72 of the Giants, 56 of the Hawks, but still the pressure factor was through the roof. The Giants kept 203 pressure on the Hawks. So out of all of the things that stood out to me on the weekend, it was just actually the high level of pressure, which is what we expect. And the Hawks were, as I said, 192. So still high pressure inside. Can't find time and space to win the ball or to use it. And yet the ball transitions from end to end. So that tells you that the balance of offense and defense in our game is great. If in the fiercest cauldrons, when the stakes are at their highest, that we're still getting a high transition footy with high pressure.
Yeah.
So we've made some decisions right there. You've got to give credit where it's due.
Yeah, it was an excellent game. And 2 other individuals I think are worthy of mention on the Hawthorn side. I think Newcomb, we well know, but his final was outstanding. And Weddle, who's coming off the short prep, there were just moments where he split the game open. And towards the end, he was the one-out target that they wanted to kick it to inside 50. So, again, a little bit like the Degoe preparation, what they've done to have him right, and then his ability to meet that physically was absolutely meritorious.
Well, he is a physical specimen. There's no doubt about it. And his role early on in the wing was, so he's popping up behind the ball, he's popping up in front of the ball, and he can run. He's just going to get up and back the whole time. I'm not sure exactly what his game time is. It'd be interesting to see what it is. It wouldn't surprise me if he was sort of mid-70s, and usually a winger would be sort of up high 80s, thinking that you're sort of D'Ambrosio, just lock him in and just let him run up and down the wing flat out all day. But he's had that exposure. Weddle is clearly more of a strike player. he hasn't got that conditioning behind him. Not at the not in the playing stocks, but he's an important piece of the puzzle, and he was always going to be if he could get back. Hawks could find another level again.
How far can they go? It's the curiosity, isn't it?
Well, it is.
You
actually asked me because you're actually asking me how far can they go. Well, we'll find out, won't we?
We will.
They'll meet Adelaide somewhat confident, I would have thought.
They just played that. It was a barn burner when they played there on Friday night. The unanswerable question that sits over the Giants is, will they win it with this group? They've gone preliminary final, 1 point loss to Collingwood, where they were outstanding that night and ever so close. They go qualifying final, semi-final, 28 points up, 44 points up, lose both. And they go here, retrieve 42-point deficit, hit the front, and get beaten in an elimination final. So they have gone one step backwards each year. Are they gonna get there with this group?
It is the question, isn't it? One thing that has been evident in their finals games is how big the fluctuations are. Like, so we saw another big fluctuation in this contest against Hawthorn. So we saw it in the two finals against Sydney and Brisbane last year. Not so much in the Collingwood game. That Collingwood GWS prelim was just dour. That's I think what's the price to pay to playing and expecting to be an open field end-to-end transition scoring team. And those words of Kingsley, they would feel somewhat hollow at times to be able to say that, especially when it's 3 years in a row. Because, yes, clearly they've backed up and risked it. Clearly they've backed up and risked it again. So, yeah, they'd be bitterly disappointed. I mean, Darcy Jones, that was a significant aspect of it. And that's tragic for the young fella and part of the game, unfortunately. So there's moments there where you sort of realise, well, it's not just a finals loss. That's 12 months of rehab, and he's not the first bloke to go through it, but he's got a challenge ahead of him. I mean, Josh Kelly coming in after that was huge, like his inspiration through the third quarter. But you're right, there's ageing elements of their list, but they've still got a whole heap of youth there as well. The fluctuation in their game is huge. Their best is so good, but they can't seem to. They can't seem to stem the tide enough when it's against them.
So I frame this now around Toby Green, because their run under Toby Green, it won't be the end of their time, but he'll be 33?
You said he's 32 now.
Yeah, so he's about to turn 32. So that's his lot for next season. They're on the clock with him, if I just framed it through him.
32 is a new 25, isn't it?
Yes.
I mean, depending what role you ask him to play, he's got... He's been a running machine and hasn't really been perceived as that through the media, but he blows the GPS up. He's always been able to get up and back as much as any player in the competition. We know he's got a great contested game on ground and aerial. He's got another 4 really solid years in him. Yes, you do have a decrement at some stage, but I don't fear for that as such. But yeah, every missed opportunity is a missed opportunity. It's a long way back to where they got to. That's why top 4 becomes crucial. Like what Adelaide and Brisbane have done for themselves is they gave themselves a mulligan in the final. So they're still alive. 3 wins and you get what you want. So that's something that Giants were able to do the previous 2 years, but not so this year. But you realise how important that is when you're in the position that the Giants find themselves in now.
Fremantle's defeat. So that's the debate, isn't it? Is how big's the missed opportunity here versus the growth of the year?
They are a very young group. But the question, and I've probably defended this for a long time. The question is how aggressive are they going to be in those moments? So Sam Mitchell's 3/4 time talk to his players was evidently around, we're ahead, but we've got to go win the game. We've got to maintain our aggression. We've got to continue to be aggressive. And that's not just in ball use either. That's in attitude. It's in contests. It's in when you come off to defend. It's when you come forward to defend. There's an aggression in defence as well. So you can be passive and just hold up and sort of think that territory is important, or you can be aggressive to score or be aggressive to strike. So the question is with Fremantle is, do they have that in their DNA enough? Because clearly modern football is saying that you need to maintain aggression. You need to keep taking the game on. And they have at times this year when all has been lost. Yeah, when all has been lost and you've needed to find it. And they've come from behind quite a deal, and they threatened to do it again. They all but did it again. So that's the query, and it's a challenge for the coaches as much as it is for the players, because that becomes a mentality as much as it becomes a plan. It becomes an attitude as much as it is about the attributes that you bring with all your people. So that could it be the difference for Fremantle? Could that, and a little bit more maturity? I think Switkowski makes a big difference for him, but you never want to be relying on your very best player, let alone one of your most important role players. I think they've set up their list really well. I think they've got good hurt factor. They've got a backline that can stand up. They've got a really solid midfield. They didn't get much out of Young this year, so that will improve. That will hopefully that does better. But yeah, it's the attitudinal piece is the one for me. That could unlock a whole heap of possibility if they can buy in and believe in it enough. But it would nearly need to be a Jekyll and Hyde type situation for them to do that. But that's probably the challenge ahead of them.
And the pressure index is the Lions' new vision clinics, keyhole laser vision, next generation technology. I think we've admired right the way through the run-in the adversity that they have faced, been able to shoulder. It was just looking at the national anthem on the weekend ago. They had 3 teenagers. There was only one other teenager involved in the whole weekend. They had 3. They've got 8 players under 22. So they are the defending champs, but they aren't the defending champs. They have shouldered a lot. Can they shoulder this adversity and keep on going?
They have, and they've got a wealth and a depth of talent that they've been able to. But a talent doesn't just get it done. There's a strength of character in the Lions and in the way that they go about it, in the depth of their leadership and their belief in each other. And any time they have found themselves in this position, they've been able to respond. So this is going to be a cracker Q clash, and the Suns are going to come in with great momentum. But I will be tipping Brisbane in this game because I just think they're going to find a way. Even though the Suns unpacked them, was it nearly 8 weeks ago now? So it's going to be a ripping contest. But Fags is going to die on that positivity hill, isn't he?
Yeah.
It is, and so he should, because that's his philosophy. It's not as bad as you think it is, and even when it's the end of it, he'll still be saying, "I'm very proud of this, and we did this, and we did that." It's always like thinking, "Okay, let's remind ourselves of the good that we're doing. Let's remind ourselves of the challenges that we've overcome, of the resilience that we've developed through this path," and that will be a big part of the preparation for this week. They were well beaten by a team who brought a defensive intent and pressure on the ball that they hadn't displayed throughout the home and away. They hadn't displayed that striking squeeze defence to come forward to pressure, and that was a really key theme in all of the commentary and the interviews of the Geelong players afterwards. And they stuck 51 tackles at 84% in the first half. They just did not miss a tackle either. So, and missed tackles are a huge thing in finals where you can't find time and space. If you can break a tackle, all of a sudden the other 17 players that are expecting that tackle to be late are a little bit out of position, and that's where Geelong were able to get away. But yeah, it's a big task for the Lions. Do they bring McInerney back in? Is Sam Day doing enough? Fort stood up and did really well. But you've still got Ashcroft. McCluggage isn't going to have a bad game like that again, or he might get tagged, and we'll see how that goes. Dunkley was still really good. Rayner isn't going to be that quiet again. Lohman, Morris, Bailey, Wilmot, they've got guns everywhere. Let's not discount how good Brisbane can be. It's going to take a huge effort for anyone to get over the top of them.
How did you see the Geelong performance?
My Chris Scott impression's not that good, mate, so I couldn't get there. I was so impressed by them. as I said just before, and around their pressure and their tackling intent. We've spoke about it sort of in the lead-in that Mullen, Neal, Humphreys, to name three, were players that had played less than 20 games. Manor was the other one, less than 20 games in their preliminary final side from last year. Now they've had another pre-season to prepare even further, and Dempsey had played 32 games at that point. So of those five, they've all got another pre-season under their belts. They're all training this plan together that was obviously a consolidated team plan to maximise the strengths of their individuals, and they're all played important roles. Mullen was huge. Like that decision to go onto McCluggage and O'Connor onto Rayner, and to know that these players are going to move around a bit. Rayner could go forward or back. McCluggage could go to the wing. He could even go to halfback at times. He'll go forward. And they had the team ready. They had the backs and the forwards ready to adjust and to find new roles to be able to move around, so that Mullen was always going to be where McCluggage was, so that O'Connor was always going to be where. So they were hard tags. That was an old school tag, even to the point of a scrag, which is probably where the umpire was leading. Like the backstory to that was probably that O'Connor was getting into Rayner, and whilst it wasn't a free kick, there might have been a little bit of trying to straighten up what O'Connor's tactics were with Rayner. But you still need the team dynamic to be able to fix that and clean it up. So you had Humphreys coming up to a wing at times. Blitzev played on the wing at times. You had 8 different Geelong players that started on the wing at a centre bounce in a structure that was malleable, and the players knew multiple roles, and then still be able to find the connection to defend really well, pressure really well, and then attack really well. Yeah, you might have to throw yours around a little bit, but mine are okay. So I actually I got 3 or 4 tips, and I had 4 or 4 before David Swallow chimed in. But I'll keep Geelong at 1. I'll have Collingwood at 2. And my tips for the weekend, and therefore my seedings, are Brisbane at 3 and Hawthorn at 4. So I expect the Lions to be able to find a way to come back together and to win that game. Although the Suns are obviously with claims, and I think Hawthorn are probably playing a brand of footy that, and there's enough questions at Adelaide, to be able for them to be able to dust themselves off. But that could be a 50-50. But 1 Geelong, 2 Collingwood, 3 Brisbane, 4 Hawthorn for me.
At the end of the home and away season, when we did seedings, I had Hawthorn in my seedings, and then when we reframed it most likely to win the flag, that was my mistake. So I'm just based on the footy that is being played.
Yep.
I'll put Brisbane at 4, who obviously stay in the seedings, but I'll put Hawthorn at 3. I think Hawthorn's footy, that's why I just couldn't see them at 8th, and I couldn't see them being out on Saturday night. That was not going to make any sense to me whatsoever.
Yep.
And they can bore deep into this final series. I think they are playing footy that I'm happy to have them at 3, Collingwood at 2, and Geelong at 1 after what we saw on Friday night.
It's just that first week of finals just shifts everything. Like it redefines everything that we've known, and it really is a clear delineator between home and away, the qualifying series, and then the work that's to come. So we've gone from 18 to 8 to 6, and now it's now there's no tomorrows for anyone in any of these games.